Hey guys, welcome back to my comic review series on IDW Sonic the Hedgehog, where I cover each and every issue. Today, I am doing a review of issue 3, where it features our boy, Knuckles the Echidna, and being the third part of the Fallout saga. Before I begin, I'm going to give a brief recap of the previous events leading up to this point. In the first issue, Sonic began his quest of traveling to areas in search of the random rogue Badniks as he meets up with Tails, who theorizes that the attacks seem more cohesive, and they assume that Dr. Ivo Eggman Badnik could potentially be behind this fiasco. And in the second issue, Sonic meets up with Amy in another village named Riverside, where the latter was in charge of organizing the resistance. After defeating all of the Badniks, Amy informs Sonic that Knuckles went to investigate a town in the south and might need Sonic's assistance. After Sonic departs, he is once again spied on by a camera-equipped flapper, which shows the mysterious figure the current situation, which leaves him frustrated. Fortunately for him though, Orbot informs the mystery man about Sonic's current destination, as new strange-looking characters are displayed on the tablet, and it all leads up to this issue. The cover is very visually appealing, as it shows Knuckles looking at Sonic with an angry look on his face, while Sonic does the "Hey, what's up" pose with some chompers in the background. And the setting appears to be Emerald Hill from Sonic 2, judging by that small island on the left side of the background. Even though this might look like a pretty plain cover for the issue, it is still great, and I think it does a good job on getting readers interested in buying the comic. Also, it's really hard to tell if Knuckles is either surprised to see Sonic behind him, or if he's trying to fight him. But either way, at least the latter doesn't happen in this story. We open up on Sonic arriving at another village called Barricade Town, where he witnesses one of the mass-produced Death Egg robots from Sonic Forces that has easily been dispatched, courtesy of the Echidna himself. Sonic runs over to Knuckles and greets him, who responds by saying, "Long time no see."
Long time no see. Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Long time no see. Long time no see.
Long time no see. Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Yep, even in the comics, they still say that line. Ugh. Anyway, he asks Sonic why he has come here, and the latter tells him that he arrived to assist him after being informed by Amy about his current progress. See the previous review for details. After being reminded that he is farther away from the HQ, as he is still the commander of the Resistance, Knuckles remarks that while he did find it more interesting that they fought to save the world, the current events where everyone is focusing on rebuilding, all scheduling, and handling inventory are something that he has no patience for, and is ready to go back to Angel Island and go on some treasure hunting. Sonic relates as he mentions that Amy tried to enlist him by coming back to the Resistance, to which Knuckles finds to be pretty absurd. Already 2 pages in, and this writing is starting to please me. Knuckles explains to the Blue Blur that this town is a hub for Wisp distribution. Apparently, something happened that caused the shipment to slow down or suddenly stop, or as Knuckles puts it, dried up, and he came to see what has caused this. He then calls out to an inhabitant in the village, who happens to be a gatekeeper, to let him inside. The gatekeeper responds by claiming he's been ordered to not open the gate for anyone, including heroes presumably. Of course, Sonic and Knuckles climb up over the wall and enter the town, which for some reason surprises the townsfolk and run away and hide in fear. Upon noticing this, Knuckles wonders if the aggressive Badnik attacks has got them spooked, but Sonic believes it might be something else. The gatekeeper tells him that they shouldn't have tried to come here, which prompts Sonic to reply that they can fix whatever the issue is. The gatekeeper believes that they can't do that because they, meaning people, have taken all the Wisps and Wisp bonds, and without them, they do not stand a chance. As Knuckles questions who the guy is referring to, Sonic remarks to the guy that he literally just watched Knuckles solo the heck out of a Super Badnik, proving that they can handle themselves. The gatekeeper informs them that just before the war between the Eggman Empire and the Resistance have come to a closure, 2 deadly looking mercenaries appeared and saved the town by driving Eggman's forces away. They mentioned at some point that they would improve the town's defenses, however, all they did was take the town's arsenal and keep the prisoners within it. As a result, They are forced to do everything that they are told to do, with some Badniks stalking their homes, preventing them from escaping. Sonic and Knuckles decide to put a stop to these so-called mercenaries and head into the supply depot, which was formerly a fortress. Very shortly, they make it to the depot where the Wisps are contained inside deployment pods. Upon finding the Wisps, Knuckles says that Tails, before going solo, had given the Resistance the cipher for the aliens' language. The Resistance asks for the help in fighting Eggman, to which the Wisps happily volunteered for and even decided to wait in the deployment pods when the troops would enter an area. Being saddened by the Wisps being hoarded, Knuckles finds this to be inexcusable. This is literally the plot of Sonic Colors all over again, if nothing else. Knuckles then hears loud laughing in the background, and it turns out that it's coming from the mercenaries, who happen to be two skunk characters that we were alluded to in the previous issue and are having the town's villagers as their slaves, even claiming that they will beat them up if they don't do what they're instructed to do. Angered by this, Knuckles is eager to fight them, but Sonic suggests they should take it slow so that the villagers will have time to escape out of the line of fire. Sonic then calls out to the two skunk guys, introducing himself and Knuckles before giving them two options. Either they surrender for their crimes, or face punishment. The skunk guys get annoyed by their fun getting ruined by the heroes, and they also introduce themselves as Rough and Tumble while doing some pretty lame poses. Are they trying to take notes from the Ginyu Force or something? Even Sonic knows how ridiculous this is. After a small comedic moment, the fight begins as Sonic takes on Tumble while Knuckles takes on Rough. We get 3 panels of a decent fight scene, with the skunk guys able to put up a decent fight against the heroes. Tumble thinking he's playing a game of basketball by taking advantage of Sonic's spin attack, and Rough uses a move called the Stink Bomber, in which he sprays green smoke, or gas maybe, all over Knuckles. Makes sense. I mean, he is a skunk after all. However, this wasn't enough, as Knuckles still comes through and punches Rough through the ground. As the two skunks recover from Sonic and Knuckles' attacks, they start arming themselves with Wisp bombs, hoping to win against the heroes. Knowing that this could cause a problem, Knuckles suggests that they should use Wisp bombs as well, but Sonic has a better idea. Oh hey, it's Yacker! Sonic calls out to all the Wisps powering the Wisp bombs by reminding them that he saved their planet from Dr. Eggman, and they stuck around to assist them on the Lost Hex, and most recently, helped the Resistance fight against the Eggman Empire. He tells them that in spite of their passive ways, they shouldn't let jerks like Rough and Tumble boss them around, and they don't need them. And this approach succeeds as the whips inside the Wisp bombs come out, rendering the weapons inactive. Eventually, more Wisps come into the scene, notably very angry with Rough and Tumble's actions. The skunks try to get their Wisp bombs to work, but to no avail. Sonic and Knuckles make fun of their lame performance as they go, "It's kick butt time for Rough and Tumble!" Then they proceed to ultimately whoop their butts. The heroes bring the defeated mercenaries outside while all the villagers in the town celebrate. The gatekeeper comes to Sonic and congratulates him for saving the village. The yellow drill whip appears and speaks in an unknown language, though they can't understand what it's saying as they don't have Tails and his Miles electric translator. But Sonic comes to the realization that it's saying that all the Wisps plan to stick around and help the citizens protect their home, much to the gatekeeper's happiness. As Rough and Tumble are being taken to custody, they arrogantly swear they will take revenge on Sonic and Knuckles, once again referring to themselves in a lame, flashy manner. But Knuckles ain't having that as he gives them the death stare. You tell him, Knuckles. He thanks Sonic for his help and hopes that things will settle down soon as he misses being on Angel Island. Sonic replies by saying that while vacation would be great, he still has to find out who's in charge of the remaining Badniks, but before that, they must party first and all the villagers join in on the fun. And like the ending for the first 2 issues, a flapper appears watching them, in which the mystery man is watching live footage of the current situation through a monitor at an Eggman themed base. Seeing that Knuckles is taking part in playing the hero, he realizes that both Angel Island and the Master Emerald are unguarded, which he states that they might considerably speed up his plans. Oh boy. So that's the end of this issue's story, and I gotta say, this one was another banger. First of all, this art style. What the heck? It is so good, and it's probably one of the best ones I've ever seen for a Sonic comic. This was done by another returning Archie Sonic artist, Jennifer Hernandez, and she did an outstanding job with making the characters look very expressive in most panels, and it definitely helps them emote in a cartoonish way, which admittedly is pretty standard and generic for most comics, but for this issue specifically, I still think it's one of the best ones that IDW Sonic has seen thus far, and it's personally one of my favorites to this day. And as I just said earlier, I really like that the art style has a cartoonish style to it. I say this because, as someone who loves watching cartoon shows, the first thing about the art style that intrigued me is the slightly bigger but detailed thick lines around the characters. It vividly reminds me of two of my childhood shows that I loved watching when I was younger. The characters in each show were drawn and animated with thick lines around them, and they are one of the reasons why I became an artist in the first place, aside from Sonic of course. Case in point, I love the art in this issue. Jennifer Hernandez handled this so perfectly, and I hope to see more of her work on this series in the future. Now, let's talk about our main man of this story, Knuckles. Knuckles has always been one of my favorite characters in the entire Sonic series, as he was really cool, calm, collected, and very independent. Despite this, he seemed to be very gullible and quite easy to manipulate, seeing as how he was tricked by Eggman multiple times in the games, once in Sonic Underground, and thrice in Sonic X. And in the Sonic Boom series, he was depicted as a very dumb and immature character, and got immensely flanderized compared to his other counterparts, although he still had good moments, mainly in the TV series. The problem with Knuckles in the main game series is, since Sonic Rush and Sonic 06, he was heavily reduced to being a joke / comic relief character, as he's only just there to be nothing but a chew toy, serve no purpose to the plot, and they have done an unfortunate disservice to his character as a result. It's especially egregious how in games like Sonic Colors DS, Generations, and Lost World, where he is just there to task you or help you out in missions or give tips, or do absolutely nothing in Lost World's case. Sonic Forces seemed like it had a decent step in for his character, but considering that game's awful story and terrible writing, it wasn't enough to suffice. But at Sonic Frontiers, they actually remembered what his personality was like. He was actually really cool again, and we even see heartwarming moments between him and Sonic, and I especially loved him in the Final Horizons DLC. And oh my god, don't even get me started on that Divergence prologue short from the official Sonic YouTube channel. He was amazing in that too. So where does that leave IDW Knuckles? Well, much like Amy, this is one of the best versions of Knuckles, period. Right up there with movie Knuckles. He doesn't come off as an arrogant jerk, he is not gullible, neither he or Sonic attempt to pick fights with one another, which is something that the Archie series was guilty of at times, and he is no longer a joke of a character. He retains the coolness that he had in SA1, SA2, Sonic Heroes, and heck, even Sonic X. He had no problems working with Sonic to save the village from rough and tumble, and I especially love that death stare that he gave them. You do not want to mess with this guy. And the cool thing about Knuckles' character and identity in this series is that he remembers his duties on Angel Island, meaning that he needs to guard and protect the Master Emerald, and thus, he views the whole island as his home. They actively acknowledge the Master Emerald for once in such a long time. When was the last time the Master Emerald was ever acknowledged? Sonic Rivals 2? Dang. But yeah, I'm glad that they finally remembered the Master Emerald exists after so long. Yet another reason as to what made IDW Sonic so great, it gets so many things right that the main series games do not, and this right here is one of them. Knuckles was always a very complex and compelling character, and IDW did him justice, and thankfully, his characterization will remain this way for the rest of the series. Next, let's discuss the new characters created for this series, the skunk duo, Rough and Tumble. The comic doesn't actually mention this, but these guys are actually brothers who just so happen to have become mercenaries at some point before the events of this comic. We do get a small backstory as to how they took over Barricade Town and enslaved all the villagers, but aside from that, not much is really known about them, at least as far as I'm aware. These guys are just pretty much generic grunts who easily get dropped like wusses in the end, and they obviously have nothing to do with the ongoing Badnik attacks. They're basically Bebop and Rocksteady from TMNT, and maybe also the Ginyu Force from Dragon Ball Z with their not so intriguing poses and calling out their own names. The reason I'm mentioning these guys is because they eventually become recurring characters later in the comic, so this won't be the last time we'll see them. Not saying that they're bad characters or anything, they're fine. They have cool designs and they're a neat addition to Sonic's new cast of villains, but I really hope their personalities will be fleshed out more in their next appearances. Next highlight in this issue are the Wisps, and please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing this name, but oh my god, this word is so hard to pronounce and I can tell how many times I've messed it up throughout this video, so please forgive me if I mess this up because this word is not easy to pronounce. Anyways, since Sonic Colors, these aliens have been a mainstay in the series. In that game, they gave Sonic some really cool abilities known as color powers, which would allow him to traverse through areas or attack bosses. Their role in this issue appears to take many cues from Sonic Forces, with the inclusions of Wisp bonds, which we've already seen in the first 2 issues, and it's really cool how they gave an in-universe explanation on why they are still around at this point, because Sonic mentioned that they assisted him back on the Lost Hex, referring to the events of Sonic Lost World, and according to Knuckles, Tails had given the Resistance some sort of a cipher code that would allow them to understand the Wisps, and that the aforementioned aliens would volunteer to help. This is another thing that the comic didn't elaborate on much, and I kinda wish they explained more in regards to that, but considering that this is a 20-page story, we unfortunately will not be getting any of that. Still, I like their inclusion in this series. I know a lot of people hate the Wisps, but to me personally, they aren't really as bad as they're made out to be. And who knows if we may possibly see another character who is very skilled with Wisp bonds and loves Wisps. Oh, and I completely forgot about this. In this panel, Sonic mentions a group called the Hooligans. Is he referring to these guys? Fang the Sniper, Bean the Dynamite, and Bark the Polar Bear? I know they were relatively well-known characters in the Archie comics, as that series came up with the idea of that name, featuring these 3 characters, starting with the 2nd issue of Sonic Universe. The fact that they are mentioned as a throwaway line in this issue is pretty clever by Ian Flynn, as many people who don't know about these guys will most likely not get this reference. And apparently, at the time of this video, this line would end up becoming true, as the Hooligans would eventually appear in this series in the 30th anniversary special and in the Fang the Hunter miniseries, although they aren't actually called that there. I haven't read either of those yet, but I do plan on reviewing them someday. And one more thing to point out is Knuckles' line in this panel, which is taken directly from Sonic Generations.
Thanks for the help. Not that I needed it, but it's good to have my sanctuary back.
Also, technically in both cases, you did need Sonic's help. Just admit that you always can't do things on your own, dude. Also, does anyone find it weird how there are egg pawns from Sonic Forces that use the original egg pawns color scheme? Apparently, the reasoning for this mishap is that Jennifer Hernandez accidentally drew the designs for the former when it was already stated by Ian that they did not have access to their designs. Either Sega somehow let this slide, or it was most likely ignored. Super odd, and it is still a discrepancy like in issue 2. For this issue, I will give it an 8.5 out of 10. Like the first 2 issues, it had an amazing story, the dynamic and chemistry between Sonic and Knuckles was good, the Wisp's inclusion was handled decently well, the neat addition of the new guys were nice, the art style is very unique and awesome, and there are still no pacing issues. Ian Flynn once again never fails with his writing. Let's move on to these variant covers. Like the previous issue, there are only 3 of these, so once again my analysis on these will be a lot shorter. First we have cover B, which chronicles the events of this issue's story, where Rough and Tumble are, again, doing Ginyu Force like poses with a spotlight centered on them, along with some confetti for some reason. And I have to ask, who even likes this performance? Who is cheering for these guys? Sonic and Knuckles definitely aren't. In all seriousness though, this is overall a fantastic cover. This was also done by Jennifer Hernandez, if that wasn't already evident by the art style. And seriously, I just love how cartoony the characters look. Next is the RI-A cover, and this one's my personal favorite of these covers, as it's another Wonderful masterpiece drawn by the talented Nathalie Fordrine. Sonic and Knuckles appear to be having a race with each other by climbing up a mountain, which they actually did do in the issue. Oh, and Tails is there cheering them on. He makes no appearance in the issue, but it's still nice to see that he is rooting for his older brother figures. Actually, now that I think about it, this reminds me of that Sonic X scene, where they practically did the same thing, with the only difference being Knuckles chasing Sonic as opposed to racing him. Wonder if that was what Nathalie was going for. But either way, awesome covers, and it is yet another one of my favorites from her. And lastly, we have the R.B cover. Similar to cover B, this also chronicles what happens in the story as Sonic and Knuckles are fighting rough and tumble, with the 3 Wisps joining in as well. Okay, maybe only 2 Wisps are joining in. That blue Wisp is doing absolutely nothing. I love how the violet Wisp is biting Ruff's tail and the red Wisp grabbing Tumble's hair. They're so funny to look at each time I see this cover. And seriously, why is that blue cube Wisp even here? Do something already! This cover's art was done by Jamal Peppers and the coloring was done by Heather Brickle. They did an excellent job with this one. So that's all the issue's variant covers, and in my opinion, I think this issue probably had the weakest appealing variant covers compared to the ones from the first 2 issues. The first one still has the best ones in the comics so far, and the second one had a decent step up with its covers. Even still, this issue's variant covers are still phenomenal, especially the second one. So that's the end of my IDW Sonic issue 3 review. It continues to show what made IDW Sonic so great, and I'm super glad they understood Knuckles' character and wrote him to be on par with his personality in the Dreamcast era Sonic games. But this is only just the beginning. He will definitely be having more good moments like this later in the comics run. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this whole review. Next time we'll be taking a look at issue 4, and judging by this cover, I can tell some good things are about to happen as we are going to be meeting a new main character for this series, as well as a familiar face, and it has already got me excited. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I'm Bronze75, and I hope you enjoyed the review.